Mulweni, please tap the screen and share the live. We are about to traumatize you some more this evening. Hello, my people. Mulweni. We are gonna go a bit deep today. Remember, we are still doing the background check on the white man and how the power dynamics that we have today got to where they are. Please tap your screen. Please share the live so that we can just go deep into this thing. Please tap the screen and share the live. Singing in Zulu. Hey, my people, let's get started. My people. I want to start today with some statistics. I think it's imperative that we start with some numbers. So, as usual, I'm going to share my screen. Good evening, guys. Good evening. Please tap the screen, share the live, so that more people can join. As you know, they've already restricted my live. Apparently, the screen is not moving enough for their like. You guys sharing the live. Please share the live. Those who have the capacity, share some gifts to get this kind of lives moving. We are continuing with the series that I'm currently engaging on, addressing the background check. We are doing a deep background check on Abelungu. I want you, after this live, most of you already understand, but I want you to understand, like, literally, Abelungu ngabantu abanjani. Because I think most of us don't understand Abelungu, and that is the downfall of abantu abansundu. Abantu abansundu do not understand Abelungu. Bathu abantu do not understand Makhoa. And that is the downfall, unfortunately. But even worse than not understanding Makhoa, Batu Babantu do not understand themselves. Perhaps then this background check is going to give a concrete basis of why abantu abansundu do not understand abantu abamhlophe. So we're going to start with some. South Africa is one of the most unequal societies in the whole universe, right? It is one of the most unequal societies in the whole world. So I tried to consolidate a kind of a report here. So firstly, you start with between white South Africans and black South Africans. Between white South Africans and black South Africans, there's different levels of inequality across various aspects of South African society. So the inequality is not just in one part; it's across every single sphere of every single measure that you can think of. There's inequality, and it's stark levels of inequality. And I will try and address that right now. But don't worry, we're still going to go back into the history of how things got to where they are. But we have to first look at what we're talking about. So, statistically, a typical black household has the wealth of about 5% versus that of the white average household. So, which means the average black family owns 5% of what the average white family has. So the white family has, let's say, R1,000,000. Whatever the 5% of R1,000,000 in wealth, the average black family only has that. That is to say, if the average white family is worth, say, 250,000 minimum, the average black family is worth 250,000 times 5%, which is times 0.05. So the fraction of wealth in black families is 0.05 of that of white families. That is the reality of South Africa. Let's go a bit further. Maybe let's look at the description. This is comparable to the black-white racial wealth gap in the United States, where the typical black household owns 6% of the wealth of the typical white household. So the poverty of black people in South Africa is comparable to the poverty of black people in America. Same thing. The poverty of black South Africans is comparable to the poverty of black American families. They may not think so, but it is literally the same thing. Black South Africans own 5% of what white South Africans own as wealth. That is to say, the value of properties, the value of investments, and all those kind of things. Now, adults with wealth over 250,000 in the white society, approximately 50% of all white adults own wealth of minimum R250,000. In the white society of South Africa, 50% of all whites have a minimum of 250K in wealth. That is to say, in properties, in investments, and other different types of assets. While in the black community, only 3% of people have a minimum of 250K in assets. That is to say, if you had 100 people who are black and 100 people who are white, and you ask them, how many of you have assets that are 250K in value or more? The black people, only 3 would come forward, whereas the white people, 50 would come forward. I repeat, if you had 100 white people on your left and 100 black South Africans on your right, and you ask a question, may those who have assets or properties or wealth that is 250,000 rand or more, may they come forward? Only 3 people from the 100 blacks would come, and 50 people from the 100 whites would come. Do you understand that 50 and 3, like the margin there, it's almost, it's crazy. It's almost 20 times more. There are 20 times more white people who have a minimum wealth of 250K than there are black people. But the population of white people is literally a fraction of the population of black people. It's almost 10% of that of black people. There are 50-something black people in this country and only like less than 7 million white people. In terms of households, if you had 100 white families and 100 black families, and you had a full R1,000,000 worth of assets, 95% of that would go to the white families and only 5% would go to the black families. But the black families are literally almost 8 times more than the white families in terms of numbers. So that is the racial wealth gap. And it's not hard work or anything like that. It's by design. These are the things that make people like, who's that Jewish immigrant? Rob Hersoff. It's statistics like this that make Jewish immigrants, European illegal foreigners like Rob Hersoff and Helen Zille, both of whom are Jewish immigrants from East. Okay, Rob Hersoff is from Russia and Helen Zille is from Germany. Ashkenazi Jews, actually. They are both Ashkenazi immigrants who came here. Now they think they have the capacity to tell indigenous South Africans that, no, guys, you are imagining racism. Rob Hersoff was saying that, no, racism is just a pigment. He said it's a figment of imagination. But Rob Hersoff goes in the same breath to a European or international platform and he says South Africa is the most racist society. So in Rob Hersoff's eyes, racism only exists towards pale-skinned Caucasoid people. But the numbers speak differently. 50% of white people all have a minimum of 250k in wealth, whereas only 3% of black people. Only 3% of black people have the same. Come on, man. You cannot make this stuff up. Let's go further. Now, this is wealth gap. This is wealth. Now we're going to income now. Income inequality. Now you work for this one. Now, the average income of white South Africans, the average income of an average white South African is 24,600 per month, which is more than triple the average income of a black South African. The average household income generally of black South Africans, on average, they earn 20% less than that of white families. On average, they earn 20% less. Then, upper income, the number of black South Africans in households earning above 22,000 rand month tripled. So it has grown. Although majority of black South Africans still earn less, but the number has grown thanks to BEE. But here's the thing now. The average salary of whites is 24k, whereas the average salary of black South Africans is 6,899. But it's even this one is only for those who are actually working, which is very few black South Africans are working. So the few black South Africans who are working, on average, they earn 6,800, and I think it's overstated. I think it's less. That's income inequality. And then when we look at health and life expectancy, white people live more, man. %40 of black people and 22% of coloureds don't have medical care. Whereas it's only 10% of whites who don't have medical care. So 40% of black people, almost 25 million, 20 million black people in South Africa right now don't have any form of medical care. Compared to 700,000 whites. Literally. And we're supposed to say, no, this is normal, man. Just work hard and you will make it, you know. That's literally what Rob Hersoff expects. You work hard, you will make it. Although this thing has been like this for hundreds of years now. Let's go further. Okay, so these are the statistics. Basically, the most important one for me is this one. This is this one. When it talks about the poverty line, let's go and see what the statistics say. Now, this is the government. It's an official document from the Department of Statistics, right? The Department of Statistics tells us that 60% of black people live below the poverty line in South Africa. I know a lot of South Africans are not privy to these realities. A lot of black South Africans are delusional. A lot of black South Africans are delusional. They think South Africans have money. Black South Africans don't have money. They are poor. They are poor to the point that they struggle to eat for the whole month. So this is the poverty line. Né? This is the poverty line in South Africa. This is food poverty, which means you need to have at least 796 rand a month, which I think is ridiculous. For you to be considered as someone who's below the food poverty line, if you cannot have 796 rand a month, the lower bound poverty line is 1,109 rand a month. The upper bound poverty line is 1,634 rand a month. Do you know that 60% of South Africans, of black South Africans, do not have 1,600 a month? Guys, this is shocking. 6 out of 10 black South Africans do not have 1,634 rand a month, which means 6 out of 10 black South Africans live below the poverty line. They struggle to make 1,634 rand every month. This cannot be real, guys. This cannot, and I think they just put this number here. I think it's more than 1,600. I think they put 1,600 just to feel better, since they give old people 2,000. I think the number is bigger, actually. So 1,634 rand is the minimum that you need to have in South Africa to at least afford some food for a month, which means you have to go buy it from the Pakistani shops. There's no way you can eat with this thing. This thing. For some people, it doesn't even finish 5 days, this money for food. It doesn't even finish 5 days for food. So that is the poverty line. You can come and get this from the Stats SA department. Now, I want to show you some statistics. So these are the different poverty numbers over the years. And these are the trends signed by the statistician general. So these are real facts. It's not opinions. But I want to show you some graphs now, before we go to understand how things got to where they are right now. Let's go have a look at some graphs. They explain their methodologies and all those kind of things. But let's go. No, man, the graphs are not here. I think they are this side. Yeah. So let's go and do some mapping of poverty in South Africa. Let's go and do some mapping. So you've got all the provinces. Poverty in the Eastern Cape is the highest in the whole country. The province that produced a lot of the freedom fighters, the province that produced heroes of the struggle, has the highest level of poverty in South Africa. The Eastern Cape. It's saddening and it's sickening. And then the Eastern Cape is followed by Limpopo at 11.5%. The crazy thing is that it's the same Abantu Abansundu who are running these provinces without any disturbance. Then it's Eastern Cape, it's Limpopo, then it's Northwest that follows in poverty. Then after Northwest is Mpumalanga and KZN. These are the poorest provinces in the country. I'm not talking about GDP now. And people think GDP reflects the standard of living. No. The Eastern Cape and KZN have a high GDP compared to the other provinces, but the Eastern Cape has the highest level of poverty. KZN has the 4th highest level of poverty, but it's got the 3rd biggest GDP in the country. So GDP means nothing when you cannot buy food for yourself. GDP means absolutely nothing when you can't buy food for yourself. And that's what you see in the Eastern Cape, in Mpumalanga. That's what you see in Limpopo and KZN. People are hungry. I've even seen where people are eating cow dung and mud in these places. People literally eat cow dung and mud. They are hungry. They do not have food. How come? How come? And you look at education standards. We know the Eastern Cape is even called the what do people call the Eastern Cape? The cutting edge province, because cutting edge realized that, damn, let's just film stuff in the Eastern Cape. We'll always have viewership because there's so many of these stories. But the same things we see in the Eastern Cape, they are there in Limpopo. I can promise you that. Those cutting edge stories you see in the Eastern Cape are there in the Northwest. They are there in KZN, and it's sad. No, the authorities know this very well. They see it every day. Because the authorities in these provinces also have houses in the deep villages. They've got massive mansions in the villages. People are eating cow dung and mud. Do you understand? Like the level of poverty you must be in to consider eating the bull crap. Literal cow crap. That is the condition under which South Africa is in right now. So we should not be delusional, guys, and think South Africa is rich and all that. It's rich for the few. Black South Africans don't even taste the wealth of the country. Only 3% have any kind of economic involvement in the country. Only 3% of Black South Africans. 3% of 50 million. You may think that's a big number, but it's not. There's 50 million Black South Africans. Only 3% have a minimum of 250K in assets. Do you understand how little of a standard, how low of a standard that is? 250,000 is nothing. What house would you buy with 250,000? To be such a, like 97% of black people don't even have assets worth 250,000. They don't even have assets actually. The biggest asset a person can own is an RDP house, which is the size of a bathroom of other people. That is the biggest asset a black South African can hope to own. The average black South African. 97% of all human beings who are black in South Africa don't have 250,000 in assets. That's the statistics. That's not me. 60% of all black human beings in South Africa, 60% don't have 1,634 rand a month to buy food. They live below the poverty line. Do you understand then how these numbers they correlate to the levels of poverty, they correlate to the levels of prostitution, they correlate to the levels of violent crimes. They correlate. You are a 25-year-old lady. Your parents cannot take care of you. You don't have education. The best option that you see available is to go and sell your body. You literally have to go and prostitute yourself out to foreigners who are selling drugs and have money. You're a young man. You don't have any ability to make money. No lady wants to talk to you. Your parents cannot take care of you. Everybody's looking to you for solutions. The best option for you is to go and smash a car window. And white South Africans will pretend like they don't know this reality. They know it very well. They created it. No, they did create it and they still benefit from its creation right now as we speak. And they know it. They'll pretend like they don't, but they do. Let's go down. Let's go down. So these are the numbers now of people that are in poverty. These are the numbers of people that are in poverty. In the Eastern Cape, almost 1 million people are in poverty. In Free State, almost, and these are people who cannot eat, guys. I'm not talking about the poverty of not having a car. I'm not talking about the poverty of not having designer clothing. I'm talking about the poverty of food here. Starvation, basically. People are dying of starvation in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. People are dying of starvation in the Limpopo province of South Africa. 12% of people are dying in the Eastern Cape. 11% in Limpopo. 7.8% in Northwest. 7.7% in KZN. There is starvation in South Africa, guys. There is starvation. People are hungry. So all you have to do is to go to the Stats SA website, South AfricanInfo.com, and then statssa.gov. Look at this, man. I remember I once went to, when I stayed in Joburg, I once went to this township. I don't even know if I can call it a township. A place in Joburg called Lihai. Yo, that place is so grey. It's grey. It's grey, that place. This is Alex, by the way. This is Alexandra. This is poverty. This is abject poverty, guys. This is poverty. This cannot make sense, man. In what world can people live like this? Ay, man, what is this now? These people live in poverty in Alexandra. Just across the road, you've got the richest square mile in the whole continent of Africa, in Sandton. Just across the road from these people. So why are people still tolerating this nonsense? Why are people still tolerating? Mna madoda, let me speak in my language. Mna ndithi, ukuba abantu bakuthi bazawuphila kwindlala nokulamba, malithe ilizwe. Malithe ilizwe, mayitshe iSouth Africa. Mayibe ngamalahle, mayibe ngumlotha iSouth Africa. Because South Africa only exists to enrich big corporations and European descendants in this country. And 3% of black people who are politicians majority of the time, or criminals like Ket Matlala and Brown Mokhotsi and Kenny Kunene and Gayton McKenzie. But those criminals now, they're taking for themselves. I don't understand why protests should be peaceful when people are dying of hunger, man. You cannot have such huge amounts of platinum, lithium, diamonds, gold, bronze. You've got such huge amounts of minerals that are being exported cold from KZN. Grasslands in the Eastern Cape, forests in the Eastern Cape, cattle, livestock farms in the Eastern Cape. But people are dying of starvation month to month. No, man. People from these provinces need to get tired. Walk up to the houses of the premiers and the mayors. Walk up to those bloody houses and faka umlilo. Faka umlilo. Faka umlilo. So this is poverty here. In the Eastern Cape, you've got 1,773,395 households. 12% of those households are in poverty. The people in the poverty are 883,000. And the intensity of the poverty is 43%, which means it's across the different spheres. And the poverty is not just in Eastern Cape, guys. The intensity levels in Gauteng are the highest. In Gauteng, poverty is the most intense. Places like Lihai, places like Zamumpilo in Gauteng, it's the most intense level of poverty. It's Eastern Cape, it's Western Cape, it's Free State, it's Limpopo. Like, poverty is just high in South Africa. That's it. This is the intensity of poverty in the country. You can see Gauteng is leading in terms of intensity. And then it's followed by Eastern Cape, which is then followed by Mpumalanga, which is followed by KZN and Northwest, both of whom are followed by Limpopo and then Northern Cape, and then Free State, and then Western Cape. All the intensity levels are above 40, which means this is serious poverty. This is serious poverty. And this is what the government is giving people. Old age grants. For people who are below the age of 75, it's 2,320 a month. They're supposed to live on this nonsense of 2,320. Do you know that groceries, if you want to buy real food, real groceries for 2 people, it can get to even like 5K. Now, if you are being conservative, definitely 3K to 4 for a full month. If you are busy working, if you're eating 3 times a day, you need 3K to 6K groceries for 2 people. You're giving this to someone who's probably supporting a family of 5 for a whole month. You see why now in the township the females are going to give birth to 5 children? Because she knows if she gives birth to 5 children, she's going to get 560 times 5, which sounds like a lot. But for 5 children, it's nothing. 560 times 5, that's about 2,500 and something, or 2,800, I'm not sure. You can compute. It's 2,800. So if you give birth to 5 kids, you have 2,800. And then there's a 370 that you can get. So you have 3,000. For 5 kids plus you, it's still not worth it. But that's the mathematics. If you go to Uppington, that's the maths that the kids are thinking, the girls are thinking of. You go to Cape Town, Manenberg, Guguletu, you go to Kylie Nyanga. That's the mathematics the children are using. And I'm saying children because the youngsters are the ones who are giving birth now. The old women can't give birth. This is the nonsense that people have to depend on. Remember, I said 60% of Black South Africans don't have 1,600 a month because this is their income level. Most now, especially the men, they depend on 370 a month. Come on, guys. What is 370? It's not even a meal. If you go to a restaurant, 370, it's one dish. Get a lamb shank and mash. No drink is coming. No dessert is coming. Anyway, now let's talk about real life situation. 370, what can you do with it? It's bad. That's what I'm saying. Like, the information is romanticized and sanitized in South Africa. When people talk about the black middle class, they will use numbers like numeric numbers, like there are 10 million. No, there are 4 million black middle class. No, but that 4 million, you need to compare it to the rest of the population. Look at the numbers. You realize that the middle class is not real because the one person who gets 25,000 rand has a family of 4. Do you understand how little 25,000 rand after tax is? It's 20K, basically. And then in that 20K, there's groceries for a full month for 4 people. That's like 40% of the 20K. Already you're left with 60%. If you have a car, that's another 40%. You're left with 20% of the money. That's why the middle class live on debt. They literally live on payday loans. It's even worse when there's children. 25,000 rand is absolutely nothing. Even 40K is nothing. Because 40K, 10K of that goes to tax. You're left with 30K net. You have to do your what? Retirement. You need to do funeral, life insurance, and all of that. If you do medical aid, it's finished, all of it. Well, a decent medical aid for 2 people is 5,000 to 6,000 rand. And I'm saying the basic, this is the starting point. If you go to Bonitas, starting point, average medical aid, the basic one, is 5,000 for 2 people. In fact, it's 6,000. If you want a proper medical aid, there's children involved, that's a good 10,000 rand a month. So if you earn 25K already, you can't have a car and have a medical aid at the same time. So I'm talking about middle class issues now. Because there's this narrative that there's a black middle class. It's people who only afford to go out on the weekend of their salary. They literally only go out on the pay day or the pay weekend, whatever it's called. Just go to any mall, man, in the country. Go to any mall, look on the week of the 25th, it's full of black people in the restaurants. On the week of the 30th, full of black people. By the 10th, you know it's empty. It's the best time to go if you want good service. Go on the 10th, around 11 during the day. You see it's only white people. Go to Tasha's, it's only white people. Go to Vida, a cafe, these little nice cafe type of places. Sweet Bit. Woolworths Food. Woolworths Restaurant. I don't know what they call it now. I'm sure there's a name for it. Which shows that the system is a scam because black people, the black middle class, can only afford to eat out within the first 5 days of getting paid. They only eat out within the first 5 days of getting paid. And, you know, Just because you get paid 30,000 rand doesn't mean you are middle class, man. We have to be comparative when it comes to these things. If you still send 20% of your salary to your parents every month, 5% of your salary goes to siblings, that's not your money. So you're not in the middle class. You're just a glorified working class peasant. Now it begs the question, why is there no fund for the so-called previously disadvantaged people? Why is there no some form of bank that is designed merely to address these things? A bank that is designed to fund black people. Why is there no bank? Why is there no central fund? There are no trust funds, there are no specific bursaries. I'm not talking about corporate bursaries. I'm talking about actual focused bursaries for people from KZN. This is a bursary. Don't tell me about Department of what, KZN, Department, Provincial, those nonsensical things. They are just distributed through corruption. I mean, real systemically based systems like banking system, financial systems that are in place, man, to avoid this thing that only 3% of black people in this country have 250K or more in assets. Do you know how little 3% is? You go to UJ, you know, in the University of Johannesburg, there's a kitchen there. It's called the Gift of the Givers Kitchen. Let me see if I can find any pictures. There's a kitchen there in the University of Johannesburg, Gift of the Givers. You know how sad it is to see black people queuing there every morning, every afternoon. Every morning, every afternoon. I'm not sure if they're gonna show it here. Okay, I don't see it. I don't think it's here. Anyway, every afternoon, black students are literally pushing each other there to eat free food from Gift of the Givers. Rice and soya mince. And oros. Every day, man, at university. It's so sad to look at. So sad to look at. I was there for 4 years, for a good 3+ years. And I was observing it. No, soya means it's not nice. It's very ugly. And the thing is, it's not only males. It's males and females, both. They are pushing each other every day just to have something to eat. In the morning, 4 slices brown bread, Sasco. Sometimes they put margarine, and peanut butter, and a cup of tea, black tea. Do you understand? Do you understand? So, these things, man, of inequality, these are not just numbers. It's lived experiences. It's lived experiences. It's not just at the level of townships where people are hungry. At universities, people are hungry, man. Black students are hungry. They don't have clothing. They don't have blankets to wear to cover themselves with at night. At UCT, kids don't have residential places to live, you know? They don't have reses. In fact, sometime this year, someone who's close to me at UCPUT was telling me they spent about 4 weeks sleeping in the what is it called now? In the student center. You know, where students go and buy things. They spend 3 to 4 weeks sleeping there because there had no space. And if they go home, they risk never getting any space. 3 to 4 weeks, black students in South Africa in 2025. There's protests every year. There have been protests since the 70s, actually. People think university protests started with fees must fall and roads must fall. I went back in time. Since the 70s, there have been protests at universities. Universities are anti-black. Just like the entire economy of South Africa is anti-black. All of it. All of it is anti-black. But how did we get here? When did this start? I'm going to give you the answer. This system, we did not import it. It was imposed on us. It's like a parasite. It sucks life away from who we are. It sucks life away from us. Now let's go back in time. Let's go back to the history of how did we get here. Please tap the like button, like the video, share the video. If you can. Let's see. Let's try and trace where does this system come from and how do we get out of this nonsensical place we are in.
Ignore. Just refuse to publish any facts of African history that don't go along with our racial theories.
We need to create a religious and a scientific doctrine so that African slavery won't appear that bad after all.
What we need to do is flood the world with new African histories that contain our European perspectives only.
Start renaming people and places. Replace African names with Arabic and European names. This will disguise their true black identity.
Let's change the criteria for defining race. For example, one drop of Negro blood in America makes you a Negro, no matter how light the skin.
Yes, when reporting ancient African history, reverse the standard. No matter how dark the skin, woolly the hair, or thick the lips, you don't have to be a Negro.
When black contribution to civilization is too obvious, let's find a way to attribute it to outside white influences.
When all the ancient historians contradict your theory, we'll just discredit them.
So this is now, we are opening a page into how they got us mentally, because a lot of the problems we face right now, the inequality you see, it's not going to be fixed until the people whom it affects, black people themselves, are able to first acknowledge that, no, man, this is not normal. This is not how a normal human being who's free in their own land should be living. So we're looking at how they got us to be mentally where we are right now. Only then can we reverse engineer our freedom. The biggest problem is that people think colonization is when Europeans came with guns. That was the consolidation of what they were doing already. That was the consolidation. That was not colonization. Colonization was much deeper. Colonization is the denial of yourself. Colonization is closing your eyes in prayer and seeing a white man with blue eyes and praying to them. Although you know very well that they're the same people who beat your parents, changed their names from indigenous name to English names, forced them to get baptized so that they can go to school and learn to hate themselves.
That we are only 3/5 human was the eminent writer and historian Thomas Carlyle. In 1849, Carlyle published an essay entitled Occasional Discourse on the Negro Question, in which he appealed for a return to some form of slavery. It was printed and reprinted in magazines across the world and helped transform the 19th century debate about race.
Carlyle's voice is a kind of prophetic voice, which booms out from his study in Cheyne Walk in Chelsea, and he writes these, extraordinarily powerful prophetic pieces which were read, with gusto by Victorians, and one can imagine them all sitting around their fires reading the latest periodical that's come out with this flow of rhetoric. In this case, in the Occasional Discourse on the Negro Question, the flow of rhetoric is about the necessity for inequality. Inequality is...
Did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch that? The necessity of what? The European system needs something for it to operate. It needs something. Otherwise, the system will break. I'll repeat just now.
buyers reading the latest periodical that's come out with this flow of rhetoric. In this case, in the occasional discourse on the Negro question, the flow of rhetoric is about the necessity for inequality.
The necessity for inequality. There is no European system that's going to flourish unless there is inequality. That's why in South Africa, 6 black people out of 10 black people will not have 1,000 rand with 634 rand a month to buy food. 6 out of 10 black South Africans live in poverty. Don't be fooled by the dances and the Amapiano challenges. 6 out of 10 black South Africans don't even have money for data. 6 out of every 10 black South Africans is poor, cannot afford food for a month. Only 3 out of 100 black South Africans, only 3 out of every 100 even has assets to the value of 250,000 rand or more. The average black South African earns less than 7,000 rand at work per month, and that is only the number of black people who are working anyway, which we know 50% of the youth in South Africa don't even work, and those who work on average will earn less than 7,000 rand. So the system necessitates inequality. It's necessary. That is a parameter of the system. The system is a function. So you need to insert certain parameters for the function to give you the results you need. And inequality is one of the key ingredients of the Western civilization or barbarism.
Flow of rhetoric. In this case, in the occasional discourse on the Negro question, the flow of rhetoric is about the necessity for inequality. Inequality is the proper way to run a society. Those who know should rule those who don't know. Men should rule women. White people should rule black.
Did you hear that? Men should rule women. White people should rule black. But it's even more interesting because black men are not men in white society. They are boys. So white women should rule black men. In white society, if you're a black man, you are a boy. Remember, you're only 60% human. You are only 3/5 human. You're not even fully human. So a black man cannot have a say on what a white woman is saying. That's the structure. That's the hierarchy of Western society. White men are by default, they are by default above everything else on the face of the earth. They are the gods. Well, to some extent, it's true for many black people. Many black people, they close their eyes every day, pray to a white man in their mind. I'm not even talking about anything else. Like mentally, when they envisage a god, when they envisage the one to whom they pray, it's literally a white person that they see. Literally. So already you've submitted to that truth. It is a truth now. It's no longer a theory. It's a truth for you. It's a reality. You cannot escape it unless you dismantle in absoluteness. So the key ingredient, and these are from the Victorian times. From the Victorian times, when the armies of the British were ravaging and raping our lands, the Victorians were sitting down and reminiscing about the great times of slavery. And they were listening to these prophecies, that's what they call them, of why it's so important for the system to operate and function in a state of inequality. The white man has to be above it all, and the white woman just below the white man. But the black man is below the white woman because the black man is not even man enough. In the words of Hendrik Verwoerd, the black man is like a 12-year-old white child. So he's not even fully developed. 3/5 human. So you need to understand, man, when these people say the ANC is corrupt, they don't care that the ANC is corrupt. They made the ANC. What they're saying is that you are incapable of running anything with white people, any society with white people. You can't rule us. By nature, you are unable, you're not allowed to. That's what Rob Herzog is saying. That's what Helen Zille is saying. They don't care about the ANC. They did the same to Musi Maimane, he was not ANC. They did the same to Lindiwe Mazibuko, she was not ANC. Where's Pumzile van Dam? She was not ANC. None of these people were ANC. So it's not about the ANC to them. You're just not good enough to run the society in which they exist because the hierarchy does not allow it. It has to be the white man on top, and then the white women, and then the white children, then you black people. Even then, you need to stop your blackness. You need to take on an English name. Speak like an Englishman. Wear like an Englishman. Eat like an Englishman. And only then, maybe, you may even have a chance of breathing the same air as they breathe.
Buyers reading the latest periodical that's come out with this flow of rhetoric. In this case, in the occasional discourse on the Negro question, the flow of rhetoric is about the necessity for inequality. Inequality is the proper way to run a society. Those who know should rule those who don't know. Men should rule women. White people should rule black. Educated people should rule the masses.
It is a common myth that the dark indigenous people of certain regions are no longer there. They are still in these lands, but are strategically kept out of the media to enhance the deception. Let's talk about how Europeans colonized the whole world and dominated over the indigenous in favor of their own desires.
The whitening of a culture has been going on for thousands of years. Usually, when a land is conquered by a foreign people, the entire look of the people changes over a period of years. The women of that land are raped or subjugated as sexual slaves to their new masters. Much of their original history changes and become corrupt or assumed by their conquerors. A good example of this is Australia. The indigenous people of the land were black aboriginals. But when the British came and the British took over the land, the aboriginals were killed and pushed into the desert lands.
In the empire that the missionaries and abolitionists set out to create, indigenous peoples would see their cultures destroyed and their religions eradicated. And yet all this seems almost benign when compared with the grim reality of what imperialism became. Because during the 19th century, their dream was gradually overwhelmed by another vision. One that claimed that the dark races could not be civilized and should instead be exterminated.
Did you guys hear that? Guys, did you hear that? I need to play it again because many of you are delusional. And you actually literally proving these people right. Uninzi lwenu nigula ngengqondo nina. Mentally unstable. Mentally unstable. Banibulela belungu. Banibulala time and again. And yet, niyabakhonza. You worship them like nobody's business. Oh no, Charlie Kirk. Oh no. Oh no, guys. Helen Zille is a good mayor. She's a good mayor, guys. She's going to run Joburg for us. Go to bloody Cape Town and see how your people are living there. Go to Hout Bay. Imizamo yethu. Go to Fish Hook. Masiphumelele. Go to Stellenbosch. Khaya Mnandi. Go to Strand. Nomzamo. The township. And the places I'm mentioning, one is inhabited by whites, one is inhabited by black people. Hout Bay, white. Imizamo yethu, black. Next to each other. Fish Hook, white. Masiphumelele, black people. Strand, white. Nomzamo, black people. Stellenbosch, white. Khaya Mnandi, black people. Just next to each other. It's two stark realities and nothing will ever change about it. So which good governance is Helen Zille doing? You people are fooled by videos that you see online. All those nice buildings you see, black people don't even have access to those things and they never will. It's Germans who have access to those things. It's Jewish people who have access to those things. It's Eastern European illegal immigrants, drug dealers that are here in South Africa who have access to those things. Listen to what they say they want to do.
Their religions eradicated. And yet all this seems almost benign when compared with the grim reality of what imperialism became. Because during the 19th century, their dream was gradually overwhelmed by another vision.
Their dream was overwhelmed by another vision. What vision overwhelmed the European dream? What was their true agenda? Still is, for that matter. What are they really trying to do? What are they trying to achieve, these people on the face of the earth? Why do you never ask yourself, you think the Afrikaners are trying to civilize or work together to build a good community? Come on, guys, man. You cannot be this naive in 2025. You cannot be this naive in 2025. Can you not see with the direction that the world is going? How are you going to prepare if you don't want to face reality? How are you going to prepare for what's coming? You will be eradicated and wiped out, and your children will be turned into slaves. You will be raped. It's not the first time. It's not the second time. It's been happening for thousands of years, guys. Can you not pick up a book and read? Read for thousands of years. This is what has been happening on earth. There will never be a time where this race wants to live with you. They say you are only 3/5 human. You are 3 out of 5 parts human. They say your place is to be fetchers of water and hewers of wood. Why do you think they want to build some bloody rainbow nation with you? Unless it's part of their strategy. Unless it works for them to play dumb. Listen to what took over their plan. What really took the center stage in their plan. Just listen. It's not my words.
One that claimed that the dark races could not be civilized and should instead be exterminated.
The dark races could not be civilized, but instead they should be eradicated, which means erased from existence. And that is exactly what's coming your way. That is exactly what's coming your way. Why do you think people are spending billions and billions and billions of American dollars on nuclear weapons? Why do you guys think that's happening? Why do you think so much money is spent on buying weapons and developing new technologies, whilst our people are drinking Savannah and twerking on TikTok? Whilst our people are unaliving each other and fighting over Charlie Kirk? These countries are building artillery. They're building weapons of destruction. Even if it destroys them, they will ultimately destroy each other, but they'll start with us. They do very well in the face of the other. We are the other. And they do very well. They will unite and eradicate anything that's not them. And then they will come and eradicate each other.
Has been taken up. Huge amount of Aboriginal land has been taken up. Huge amount of Aboriginal land has been taken up. And there is this enormous struggle between...
The British then began to come up with strategic ways to breeding out the original people of the land.
Notice, if you will, the half-caste child.
Listen to this now.
Increasing numbers of them.
Listen to this, guys. Listen to this. They tried so much to wipe out the indigenous populations, but they keep on failing and failing and failing. So they had to come up with a new strategy on how to wipe out the populations. And you will see. Just listen to what they're saying.
Original people of the land.
Out. That is to mean whited out. The native has been whited out through the genetic infiltration by the Neanderthal.
Bred up. Bred up.
They did not call themselves Aboriginals. This was the name given to them by the British. Colonization brings death to the original people of the land. Names change, and history is erased. Before the British in 1803, there were an estimated 750,000 full-blooded Aboriginals. The last full-blooded Aboriginal was a woman named Triganini, who died in 1876.
I want you guys to notice the hair. I want you guys to notice the hair. You see the hair of this Aboriginal woman. I wonder.
Another example of intentional breeding out of blacks is what occurred in Brazil.
Latin America.
When slavery was abolished, what did the white elite think about the legacy of African culture in Brazil?
What bothered them, or the biggest problem,
Argentina was
how
worse.
to deal with the population of color. População de cor. Various intellectuals believed for Brazil to become a civilized country, it had to have a process of whitening. For this reason, the government invested a great deal in European immigration to the country.
The Brazilian government paid for more than 4 million Europeans to migrate to Brazil.
So they imported Europeans to Brazil. That's what they're doing now in America. That's what they're doing. They've found an easy population of Afrikaners. They're importing them to America now to whiten out America even more. Because America is becoming less and less white. Now they've realized that we can white it out again. They're going to import white people from around the world using the narrative of white genocide, which they've started adopting now. Now, white genocide is no longer a South African thing. It's a global thing now. White Americans are saying they are being genocided. In Britain, the whites are saying there's a genocide against them. So they're realizing, that the white is being reduced. Now, here's the problem. It's not anyone's fault but theirs. The white women don't want to give birth anymore. Now, the white men need to establish their control once again over the white woman. But to establish their control over the white women, they must create an enemy, the other person. And this is what AfriForum has been at the forefront of, creating an enemy. The white South Africans have been good at this, creating an enemy. They call it Swart Gevaar. Now, they're exporting the Swart Gevaar, which they already got from Europe, but they kept it intact. They're exporting it now to Europe, they're reviving it actually, they're not exporting it. Because Swart Gevaar is European culture. They're just reviving it now. That's why you have these Afrikaners going around the world, your Ernst Roots, and all the other ones. Some have even infiltrated government. That's why you have Helen Zille. That's why you have Ian Cameron. You see, you have your Steenhuisens. They've deeply infiltrated government already.
This was part of a process known as branqueamento, whitening. The government hoped that these new immigrants would outnumber the black people and breed with them, over time whitening the face of Brazil, whitening the face of Brazil, whitening the face of Brazil, both its gene pool and its culture.
From then on, the government began to persecute practices that were seen as black, like candomblé and capoeira, trying to convince people that these practices were barbaric and that it was a civilizing act to stop them.
History is being changed all the time. And then the people that control things, what do? They suppress the truth by calling you a racist if you challenge their version of history. I find it amazing that in every continent, the indigenous people of the land are much darker than the people that reside in the land today. What most don't realize is that the original people are still in these lands, while the lighter carbon copy of these people are pushed to the forefront, and the darker people are pushed in the shadows of the land.
History has left some very impressive.
So this is where colorism gets its power from. You hate dark-skinned women. You promote light-skinned black women. It's not true. You don't like black women. That's what you are. You're anti-black. You're just using the light-skinned indigenous woman as a convenience because you have no connection to white society. But if you had connection to white society, even the indigenous light-skinned woman would be as good as a dark-skinned person. So colorism has nothing to do with light-skinned black people. Light-skinned black people are natural, they are born that way, and they are beautiful, and they are black. It's the people who perpetuate the divide that are the problem, because they are pursuing whiteness where it does not exist. This documentary is called Whited Out. Here it is. Whited Out documentary official. This is part 1. It's got 7 parts. So that's about maybe 15 hours in total. I think it's 15 hours in total. So it's got 7 parts.
Proof and evidence of what has happened and replace it with this to real race as always being on top.
So this is the issue then. When you see things like colorism, it's just a manifestation of white supremacy, really. That's what it is, you know. It's the people who are colorists are actually racists towards themselves. That is to say, they are a successful project of colonization. That's all they are, really. Nothing more. They are just a successful project of colonization and nobody can help them, unfortunately. You can't help such people. They are a very successful colonial project. What you do is to detach from such. That's why if you're going to have black children, you need to allow those black children to grow their black hair. You need to allow those black children to exist in their blackness. Blackness must be their primary reference. Indigenous understanding of the world must be their primary reference. Your kids cannot be experts in Western society standards of the world, standard of life, view of the world, when they don't even understand what indigenous society is. Now you've got black people busy, they're shouting socialism and communism and Marxist. What is this nonsense that Jewish guy called Karl Marx designed? Marxist-Leninist nonsense. We already have Isintu. It's a complete system that has been refined over thousands of years. Telling me about communism. We already live in communal cultures. Socialism. We already live in social cultures. No, guys. You see, Marxism, Leninism, stupid nonsense. It's still another form of colonization because what it is about creating monopolies that are going to kill competition and going to own things in full. The same communists and capitalists at the highest level are the same people. I repeat, when Russia was a Soviet Union, 85% of the Russian government was Jewish people. Just like America today, it's a capitalist society, Jewish people. In China today, Jewish people are moving in droves. What I'm saying to you is that the same groups of billionaires who are behind communism are the same group of billionaires who are behind capitalism. They're the same group of billionaires who are behind technocracy. They're the same group of billionaires who are behind fascism. They're the same group of billionaires who are behind racism. They're the same group of billionaires who are behind Christian nationalism. They are behind apartheid. So what are you talking about? You think there's a side to choose? Yeah, there's no side to choose. It's one side. Power over the powerless. Did you not hear what these people are saying? We want to eradicate these people. If you cannot eradicate them through military conquest, then let's wipe them out. Those of them who remain, let's reduce them to below human because already we told them they are 60% human. They are not fully human. So what are you talking about? Oh no, communism is our only way out. No, it's not even yours. Shut it. Stop depending on other people to tell you how to live your life. Why do you need communism when you have Isintu? You think Isintu doesn't have a financial system? Isintu has a financial system. Isintu understands capital. But capital is not our reason for existence. Capital is not our. I seem to understand capital. When I was young, we were told, Tina, inkomo yenqoma yintsengo ibheka. Inkomo yenqoma yintsengo ibheka. When someone gives you a cow, when you milk it, you must understand that the cow belongs to that person. It's not yours. And you know that cow, even if it has amatole must return back, the cows must return back. That is principal investment. That's capital investment and profits. That's literally what it is. When someone puts in something of value, could be a financial asset, could be some cash injection, if it bears interest, the person who invested that money owns the interest. That's what the idea of capital is. You can extend it now into owning land and this and that. Now for us, we're not like that. You don't own lands. You live on land. You take care of land. You don't own water. You live by the water. You take care of the water. So you cannot live in capitalism and be an indigenous person at the same time. But you cannot also not live in communism and be an indigenous person at the same time, because we are not communists, we are communal. We are communal people, not communists. So it's very, very important to understand that there are big, big, big errors in this system. Now let's move and see. Let's go a bit further into this story. Let's go a bit further. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. I want to show you something. Because today, let me just play this. Find this book, ne? Find yourself this book. And this one.
Jewish gangsters getting rich off running illegal liquor across the Detroit River from Canada.
By the way, these are the original gangs in America. Not your Crips and Bloods. These are the real gangs in Detroit. The real original owners of those gangs.
They were legends in the criminal underworld of America, and their name rang bells from St. Louis to New York.
This is 1928 in the USA. These are the murder rates. Detroit had the highest murder rate, and then Chicago, and then Philadelphia, New York, and Los Angeles.
They also killed 500 people, according to the police. Al Capone sent for them to help him murder 6 people in the infamous St. Valentine's Day Massacre. In 1925...
So they work with Al Capone, these Jewish gangsters, these original gangsters of America. They were working with a well-known criminal called Al Capone.
Alone, police recovered 53 dead bodies from the Detroit River. The Purple Gang was never a tightly organized criminal syndicate, but a loose confederation of predominantly Jewish gangsters, more like modern African-American criminal groups.
More like the modern African-American criminals. The Jewish gangsters of 1928, it's like the African-American gangsters or the Manenberg gangsters, South African gangsters. It's like they exported that into these groups.
In the Italian Mafia. The last vestiges of the Purple Gang were finished when Harry Millman, feared Purple Gang assassin, was himself shot down at Boski's Deli, November 25th, 1937, on the corner of 12th Street and Hazelwood.
In 1977, Colonel Curtis B. Dahl published a book titled Israel's $5 Trillion Secret. He was the former son-in-law of Franklin Delano Roosevelt and a personal acquaintance of many high officials in the U.S. government since the 1930s. Colonel Dahl proved...
Anyway, I won't stay long here. These are the owners of America. We all know that. We can all see that anyway. But yeah, they do stay very busy. For such a tiny group, they stay very busy. I want to maybe go further into the colonization and the project of wiping out indigenous societies. I want to go further to the colonization and the wiping out of indigenous societies. So let us move on from here and take on another approach. Let's start here.
And you will see just how barbaric they were. No example is better than the violence perpetrated by the barbarians that the Europeans came from, which brought on the Dark Ages. Through this, we see how the early European barbarians were wild, savage-like. They conquered through the process of wars and pure destruction with centuries of rape and pillaging.
Because if you know the history of the whole concept of whiteness, if you know the history of the whole concept of the white race, where it came from and for what reason, you know that it was a trick and it's worked brilliantly.
Let's repeat that one, because I need black people to understand this. Like, I need black people to understand, man. Oh my goodness.
Pillaging.
Because if you know the history of the whole concept of whiteness, if you know the history of the whole concept of the white race, where it came from and for what reason, you know that it was a trick and it's worked brilliantly.
The concept of whiteness is a trick. That is to say, whiteness is a scam.
See, prior to the mid to late 1600s in the colonies of what would become the United States, there was no such thing as the white race. Those of us of European descent did not refer to ourselves by that term really ever before then. In fact, in the old countries of Europe, we had spent most of our time killing each other. We didn't love each other. We weren't one big happy family. The side of my family that comes from Scotland, hell, they didn't even worry about fighting people outside of Scotland. Highlanders and Lowlanders just fought the hell out of each other.
So this guy is literally telling you that there was no whiteness. It's not the real thing. It's just created for the purposes of colonization. It's a nice product that they all bought into. But it was never a real thing. It never existed. It's just a product that was created for the purposes of colonization. So whiteness is not a thing. It's not real. But let's try and understand Western society. What is the basis of Western society? And why does Western society require inequality to operate? Why does it require inequality? You can get this video on YouTube. If you go to my channel, Sandile Tukani, you will find a lot of similar videos like this. But remember now, this is a series called Whited Out. This one is called Barbarians, Crusaders, and the Inquisition. Whited Out 3.
During the time of the Dark Ages, Rome and other cities deteriorated because of the invasions of barbarians from northern and central Europe. Since there was no longer an imperial authority with the power to protect the citizens of the cities, the urban population declined sharply during this period of history. Another consequence of the lack of a strong central power was the development of the feudal system, especially from AD 900.
So the feudal system is where there's like one ruler at the top who's above everything else, and then you've got the army that are below that ruler, and then you've got, the military service, and then you've got the knights, and then you've got the peasants who are basically servants to everyone else.
To 1150. During this feudal age, most parishes had rural populations, and most towns tended to be smaller and less numerous. Castles and walled towns were guarded by the feudal lords' armies and provided security and safety to the peasants and townspeople from the invading barbarians. One of the consequences of the feudal system was the decline in church structures because of feudalistic pressures and control that was put upon them. Feudalism was the medieval model of government predating the birth of the modern nation-state. Feudal society is a military hierarchy in which a ruler or lord offers mounted fighters a fief, medieval beneficium, a unit of land to control in exchange for a military service. The individual who accepted this land became a vassal, and the man who granted the land became known as his liege or his lord. The deal was often sealed by swearing oaths on the Bible or on the relics of saints.
You've heard the term landlord. What do you think
This is where the term landlord comes from. When you call someone your landlord, that's where the term originates from.
it came from? It is traced all the way back to the Roman Empire and to the manorial system. Peasants became bound to the land and depended on their landlords to protect them from savage barbarians.
You see, the thing is today, this system still exists because what you understand as monarchs, it's your central banks. What you understand as the landlords, it's the big banks. That's why when you buy a home, it's actually the bank that buys the home. It's Standard Bank, it's West Bank that buys your car. You are just paying them for that car, but they are the ones who own it. And then the clergy is basically your corporate elite, your Discoveries, your Alan Greys, your royal ministers. These are the politicians of today, your Fikile Mbalulas, your Ramaphosas. And then you've got merchants who are basically bureaucrats today, commissioners, statistician generals, your judges and all that. Then you've got vassals. Vassals are basically the servants. It's the servants, basically, the people who actually pay the rent to the ones above. Vassals is the professionals, the doctors, the engineers, the entertainers, the celebrities. You wonder why the celebrities of South Africa are not criticizing the government or the system. They are vassals. They need to pay tribute to everyone above here. They are merely just glorified slaves. They're basically house slaves. Whereas the peasants, the workers and the students and the soldiers, they are the field slaves. So you are here. You are here at the bottom.
Under feudalism, such relations became widespread. They were landlords everywhere. And what do you see today? Stolen land and landlords everywhere. This was all pushed through Christianity. The knights and the landlords were all European Christians. This is what brought on the Crusades.
So, okay, South Africans, your land was stolen by Christians. You must understand that. The malls where you have to pay for parking, that's your ancestors' lands, Baba. The malls you go to buy groceries and you pay for parking, that is the land of your forefathers, and the Christians stole that land and they're making you pay for it. They're building malls and estates in Umhlanga. There's estates everywhere in Protea Glen and Waterkloof, Constantia, East London, in the Eastern Cape. There's even places called East London. Can you believe it? East London. All your ancestral lands, Grahamstown. And you have to pay to live in your ancestral lands.
The Crusades.
President Obama decides.
Okay, we've seen this one a couple of times. I need to move a bit forward. It's a bit scripted anyway. Now let's get into it.
Like it or not.
The first of the Crusades began in 1095, when armies of Christians from Western Europe responded to Pope Urban II's plea to go to war against Muslim forces in the Holy Land. After the First Crusade achieved its goal with the capture of Jerusalem in 1099, the invading Christians set up several Latin Christian states, even as Muslims in the region vowed to wage holy war, jihad, to regain control over the region. Deteriorating relations between the Crusaders and their Christian allies in the Byzantine Empire culminated in the sack of Constantinople in 1204 during the Third Crusade. Near the end of the 13th century, the rising Mamluk dynasty in Egypt provided the first reckoning for the Crusaders, toppling the coastal stronghold of Acre and driving the European invaders out of Palestine and Syria in 1291.
Did you hear that, guys? in the 1200s, and these people are fighting in the Middle East, in Palestine. Now, Palestine used to be called Peleshti. Peleshti. The Europeans were there, Baba, in Peleshti. They were here in Africa in the 1200s, pillaging and raping the land in the name of Christianity.
Now, don't this sound familiar? European Christians going to Arab-occupied lands and conquering, taking land as their own. This is why the Arabs are so uptight with the European nations. Because, like Israel, what did they do? They went there and they took the land from the Palestinians, right? They call the Arabs terrorists, and yet it's the whites that bring the terror to their lands. But notice, they call their actions war.
Rudolph J. Rummel estimates the Crusades butchered 1 million innocent civilian men, women, and children, not in combat.
1 million human beings. 1 million. Men, women, and children, not in combat. Not in combat. In their houses. In the streets. They were unalived. No, the Arabs themselves. They are the biggest slave traders. In fact, the Arabs were trading the Europeans during the slave trade. They were actually selling the Europeans themselves. You've got the Slavs of Eastern Europe. The name slave comes from their name. They are the Slavic people. That's why their name ended up meaning slave. It's like the name Slav used to mean slaves, like Negro or Zanye or I forgot now. But there's names they use even in Sudan for the black Sudanese. They call them Nuba, which means slaves. So it's been a thing, you see.
In 1095, Pope Urban II made a speech at Council of Clermont to launch the bloodletting of the Crusades. The capture of Jerusalem, 1099. When they took Jerusalem, the Christian army butchered almost every man, woman, and little child in the city. Saint Bernard of Clairvaux said, when launching the Second Crusade, the Christian glories in the death of a pagan, because thereby Christ himself is glorified. The genocide of the Cathars. Rudolph J. Rummel estimates they butchered 200,000 innocent men, women, and children. The genocide of the Stedinger people of Friesland. In 1233, Pope Gregory encouraged the extermination of the Stedinger people of Friesland on the imaginary grounds that they were in league with the devil. The devil appears to them in different shapes.
And you see, guys, how these people do this thing. They firstly take control of the narrative. Né? Here in South Africa, it's happening right now. AfriForum has started now, demonizing South African universities that are attempting to sort of delve into some of the spiritual systems that exist in South Africa, indigenous spiritual system traditions. They are demonizing it. It's the ways of the devil. They start by doing that. That's their way of dehumanizing whoever is practicing any other system of belief except for a system of belief that inclines towards the West. They colonize everything, including religion itself. They colonized it. I'm still repeating that there are black human beings right now in South Africa. Before they sleep, they're going to pray. But the image that they're going to see in their mind is a white man. Make that make sense. Make that make sense to me that you are a black human being who has been disenfranchised. You have been stripped of your land, of your dignity, of your humanity. But the first thing you see in your mind when you kneel down to pray is the image of a white human being. The Indian sees an Indian when they pray. The Chinese sees a Chinese when they pray. The Japanese sees a Japanese when they pray. The European sees a European when he prays. But the black man sees a European when he prays. Oh, an Arab when he prays. What nonsense is that? What kind of nonsensical stupidity is that? So you think you're going to win a battle? It's not a battle of guns only. It's a battle of the mind. So you need to start there. The very driving force behind the power of the Europeans today and the power of the Arabs today is the use of religion. Guys, they conquered the world because they were using religion, which inspires fear and or obedience. So if you think you're going to fight for your freedom, you're not going to fight for your freedom by quoting Karl Marx or Lenin. You're not going to fight for freedom using Marxist, Leninist, nonsensical gibberish here. You need to go to the source of why is my mind so closed? Why is my mind deep in the rut? Why am I in the sunken place? Why am I under hypnosis? Oh, it's the religion. It's the religion. I've been colonized in the mind. So I see a God when I see a white person. They are my God. How can I challenge my God now? Look at what's happening right now. Israel, that thing called Israel there, is bombing Palestine. And I'm not a friend of Israel. But people are literally putting their lives on the line to say we are on the side of Israel because they are the chosen people, guys. We're going to be cursed if we're not on the side of Israel. Do you understand how successful that project has been? That you must support someone who's murdering other people so that at least you can sleep without feeling guilty at night. But that's a successful project. That is a successful project. In fact, apartheid operates in the same way. It literally operates in the same way. There are black people who used to believe that no, it's God who wants us to be slaves. We did something wrong, guys. No, Ham and Canaan, he saw the nakedness of his father. That's why we are poor. When did he see the nakedness? Before 1652 or after 1652? Because there's a period where white people are not running things in this country. Why did they wait for 1652 all of a sudden? Now, those questions are not going to be answered. That's why you need to be a critical thinker then. Because you're not going to be accepting stupid explanations here. Christian Zionism is literally apartheid, which is literally fascism, which is literally Nazism. It's the same thing. Go and watch my lives. I did some previous lives on this. I went really deep. Same thing. So you cannot then get out of this oppressive system in South Africa if you are still holding on to the image of the white man who oppresses you. You are not going to be free unless you free the very same place that they attacked first.
Sometimes as a goose.
You're asking me about ZCC? Do you know that there's something called CIA in America? The CIA is a system of spies. So they fund certain projects. These could be projects that are gonna sort of like mimic a form of social cohesion. Certain churches are just funded by foreign, state resources. I'm just gonna put it like that. A lot of these black churches that go unquestioned are just funded by European and American and Israeli interests. That's it. Even Julius Malema himself belongs to the Lemba Jews community who have ties with Israel. I remember Julius Malema was literally saying to Ndlozi not to speak bad about the Jews too much because he's a Jew himself. All I'm saying is that these churches have international ties. You may not know it, but they do. Look at the uniform of the ZCC. It's literally European soldiers. They are literally dressed up in the uniform of European soldiers. Like all the other churches in this country.
Or a duck. The entire people were exterminated.
So how do we, as people of faith, reconcile?
People of faith, you are literally a devil, Bafo. You are not people of faith here. Now let's listen to what this guy has to say.
Speech at a national prayer breakfast and says, hey, let's not be on our high horse here as Christians. Obviously, we had the Crusades and things like slavery, and those are issues. Ounces religious violence. Okay. And American slavery. I mean, the fact that they justified it by quoting the Bible over and over again, saying that if you're a slave, You should know your place and your role, and that is to serve your master. That is an absolute historical fact. But the Klan, I mean, the Klan's not fair, right? I mean, were they really Christians? Well, let's take a look at some pictures of the Klan and figure out if they were or not.
This is the KKK.
Oh, right, there's a giant cross they're burning. And they're not burning the cross because they're Muslims and they don't like it. They're burning the cross because they think this is our symbol. And we are lighting this up, and we are going to show it to not just blacks, by the way, Jews, Muslims. They talked about even Muslims and how they had to be eradicated as well. It was not just racial, it was also religious. See, the cross on his white robe might have also been a giveaway that it was also a religious group, a Christian group, that did the worst terrorism in U.S. history. Yes, including 9/11. I know. How dare I? How dare I? The Klan for decades and decades terrorizing millions of Americans. You want to talk about terrorism when someone burns a cross in your lawn, and then forget the symbolic element of it. When they grab you from inside your home and they lynch you and they burn you and they hang you and they literally have a picnic around that hanging and that burning. That's the true face of terrorism. I know you can't say it about Christians because that's forbidden in America. Christians, according to Fox News Channel, have never done any violence. What a comical, insane thing to say. All right, now let's give him the benefit of that and say he didn't mean historically. He recognizes that Christians have been the most brutal. I mean, it's not that Christians are most brutal by genes. That would be preposterous. We're all human beings, right? But as it stands, historically, more people have been killed in these Christian atrocities than any other religions. Now, that's a fact. My guess is that Eric Boland's not going to agree with that. But even if we were to grant him that he didn't mean historical, but just meant recently, and let's take a look at recent stuff. I mean, we don't want to go back 700-800 years to the Crusades, right? That's what the conservatives keep saying. Let's look at Christian violence recently. First of all, right now, we've got massacres in the Central African Republic of Christians massacring Muslims and driving them out. That's happening right now. And then, of course, there were the massacres in Bosnia, where the Christians, the Serbs, and at different times the Croats came in and butchered the Muslims there. And then there was a lot of fighting and a lot of religious violence. Is violence only in the case of Christians? Of course not. That would be a ridiculous thing to say. Now you say, all right, well, those don't count either. There's always a reason. They're not in America. All right, let's come to America. Eric Rudolph, Olympic bomber, abortion clinic bomber, one of the biggest cases of terrorism we've had in the U.S., also Christian, also said he was doing it for Christianity. Scott Roeder, the guy who killed Dr. Tiller. He's a killer on the, ironically, pro-life movement. Wade Michael Page, he's the guy who shot people at the Sikh temple thinking they were Muslims. Also devout, right-winger, white supremacist Christian, Jim David Atkinson. Although he killed people in a church, he had books from Fox News Channel hosts and contributors and saying he had to kill the liberal Christians in order to save Christianity. James Charles Kopp, another killer.
Listen to that. A Christian killed other Christianities. He killed other Christians in order to save Christianity.
Abortion doctors and providers. John C. Salvi, the same. By the way, the Army of God, yes, that is the name for Hezbollah in Arabic, but also the name of a Christian terrorist group that kills abortion providers or anywhere near abortions providing services when they blow up the place. And then, of course, there's the Order. The Order is also another terrorist group, also Christian. Member of the Order is a guy you might recognize next on the list, Timothy McVeigh. Also a Christian, also white power, and also one of the worst terrorist acts in American history. In fact, the worst until 9/11. And then you have Anders Behring Breivik, who killed over 70 people in Norway as well. And he said he was doing it because he was afraid that the Muslims were going to take over, and he was defending Christianity. So I'm pretty sure that fairly recently, there have been a lot of acts of terror by Christians. Now, if you want to say just in the last couple of months, okay, I got that one for you too. Well, here was a guy named Larry McWilliams. He was a Texas resident. And you know what he did? He tried to burn down a Mexican consulate. He was shot dead while he was doing that. And in his van, they found a copy of a 1990 book that explained why he was doing it. The name of the book, Vigilantes of Christendom. That was in the last 2 months. I'm pretty sure that he was a Christian. The idea that Christians in general or by nature are worse than Muslims is preposterous. But the idea that
Okay, we're not trying to.
discovery and punishment of heresy, which was marked by the severity of questioning and punishment and lack of rights afforded to the accused. The Inquisition was the fight against heretics with the use of torture.
So this talks about the Spanish Inquisition. Now, people may think, Sandila, why are you talking about these things? These are American and European things. If you think so, then you need to go back to my videos and actually watch, because a lot of the people who were being unalived here were actually black people, many of whom were sent to Africa. Remember, this is Spain and Portugal. Portugal had Mozambique. Portugal had Angola. So, and some islands. So a lot of the people who were being unalived during the Spanish Inquisition, many of them went to Congo, Angola, possibly Mozambique, Sao Tome Islands as well. So everything is connected, man. For the fact that there's Europeans in our country, Europe will affect you. Whatever happens in Europe will affect South Africa. Whatever happens in America will affect South Africa. We've got Google in South Africa. We've got Amazon in South Africa. These companies operate here. Microsoft has big investments here. There is no way you can think in 2025 that things that happen in America and Europe do not influence South Africa. We've got Coca-Cola here, massive in South Africa. There's Massmart, they own Macro. You see, they're coming here. So you are bound to be influenced by what happens in these countries, whether you like it or not.
Several institutions within the justice system of the Roman Catholic Church.
The Spanish Inquisition was horrible. People were killed if they were another religion, any religion other than Christianity. Or if a person sprinkled powder or salt or something on their porch, they would have been accused of being a witch. Just think about the term Spanish Inquisition. Unless you've had some type of history class, you wouldn't even know what it meant. Why not call it what it is? Christian terrorism. People associated with Spain, but yet it was the Pope of Rome that started it. Why not call it the terrorism of the Christian Pope?
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong, they are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so.
Between 1478 and 1833, thousands of people were arrested, tortured, and executed because their religious beliefs were not welcome in their homeland. They were victims of the Spanish Inquisition. The Inquisition has cast a long shadow, but it's been so obscured by myth that until now it's been hard to tell the real story of these dark days of the Catholic Church.
While many people associate the Inquisition with Spain and Portugal, it was actually instituted by Pope Innocent III, 1198 to 1216 in Rome. A later pope, Pope Gregory IX, established the Inquisition in 1233 to combat the heresy of the Albigenses, a religious sect in France in 1255. The Inquisition was in full gear throughout Central and Western Europe. By the time of the transatlantic slave trade, these European Christians had killed hundreds of thousands of people in the name of Christianity.
You see where the KKK get their hoodies now. The KKK is a religious sect of lunatics. In fact, all these racists in the world, a lot of them have a strong religious undertone.
By 1914, only 2 countries remained outside European possession, Liberia in the west and Ethiopia in the east. Britain had seized the lion's share of control. Egypt and the Sudan in the north, the immense wealth of South Africa, valuable colonies like Rhodesia and Kenya, and richly populated territories such as Nigeria and the Gold Coast. France had invaded Algeria in the 1830s. Now, after new wars of conquest, she added more colonies to her empire south of the Sahara, including the island of Madagascar. Little Portugal carved out 2 vast colonies, Angola and Mozambique, while Imperial Germany took the Cameroons and southwest Africa, and on the east coast, Tanganyika. The vast Congo basin fell to King Leopold of the Belgians. Italy and Spain completed the enclosure. The fate of the continent was utterly changed. Between the colonizing powers themselves, the carve-up was peaceful, but their rivalry was intense. In 1884, a congress of the competing governments met in Berlin to settle their disputes. Germany's Iron Chancellor Bismarck was there. And active behind the scenes was the ambitious Belgian king. He spoke for them all when he said, "I am determined to get my share of this magnificent African cake." Any power that could occupy African soil could effectively claim it.
Wow.
Now the task was to stake out frontiers in utterly uncharted land. Said the French Prime Minister, "We have embarked on a gigantic steeplechase into..."
And these people are Christian, guys.
So I think one of the fundamental reasons why Europeans, in general, the European intelligentsia, scholars and academics, why they deny Africa their history, you know, from ancient Egypt all the way through to kind of the major empires from Mali and, you know, and Kush and all those kind of things, is because of the fact that if you accept that these groups of people were responsible for your ascent into history, your ascent into what is known as civilization, then how the hell can you justify enslaving them? And that's part of the problem, is the fact that you've enslaved, you've tortured, you've committed innumerable acts of genocide on the same people that put you in the position that you are in, scientifically, philosophically, academically, and culturally, and
So you see what he's saying, this guy. Like, it doesn't make sense to colonize the same people who gave you the very gift of life and existence. But Europeans don't care about that. They don't care about truth. They care about whatever they benefit. Now, I'm going to play the last one, and then we're going to call it. We'll continue tomorrow.
How can blacks play the game of economics as a team when most blacks don't want to participate?
That should be a difficult question to answer. First of all, black people have to understand what racism and economics is. See, racism is a team sport. The rule is that either you play as a team or
Racism is a team sport. It's either you play as a team or you lose.
you lose. But more importantly, economics. Again, racism is also economics based. It has nothing to do with
Racism is also economics based.
just getting along with people being
It's not just about skin alone.
happy. But on the other side, blacks don't have to have every black participate with them. Get as many as you need, as you can get your hands on, and start practicing group economics. And because economic power, economic prosperity flows from the group. Doesn't make any difference how well one black does or what in terms of
That's why that whole story of, oh, I'm the first black to do this. I'm the first black what. I'm the most successful black what. It's the most stupid thing ever. It is the dumbest nonsense ever. Oh, Vusitimiwa, the first black person to host this. Oh, Richard Maponya, the first black person. Those things don't make any change. They don't mean nothing. What you want is to have a significant part of these people to have access to certain power, certain amount of influence. Imagine you get just 5,000 black families, just 5,000, to access assets of a combined value of like 10 billion rand. That's 5,000 families. 4 generations down the line, they could multiply that by 30, which is 300 billion rand. And there won't be 5,000 families by then. 4 generations down the line, there would have been maybe five families times 25. So already the games of numbers. So economics and racism, the two are intertwined, and it's not an individual thing. It is not an individual thing. It doesn't matter how rich you are, if you're walking on the streets of Sweden, those people see you as a particular type of person. It doesn't matter how rich you are, they don't care. Because it's a group sport. It's a team sport. That's why it doesn't make sense to empower individuals and not empower the whole group. You see how amiss programs such as the feminist movement or the red pill movement. Oh no, it's only about us, men. Yo, we are strong. Oh, it's only about us, ladies. Feminists are pushing to the left side. The red pill are pushing to the other side. Old politicians are pushing to their own side. Do you understand that you'll never win against these people? Because these people, they create these stories for you guys to hold on to. Red pill, women are evil. Oh, we are feminists. Men are bad. Man, you don't even need all men in this thing. You just need the 2% that are good. You need the 2% of women that are good. You need just the 2% of black people that are good. And you can run the show. Someone was saying the Jews are very few, but the amount of influence they have is immense because they understand that I don't need too many. I just need enough. Let's go back.
Asks, how can blacks play the game of economics as a team when most blacks don't want to participate?
That should be a difficult question to answer. First of all, black folk have to understand what racism and economics is. See, racism is a team sport. The rule is that either you play as a team or you lose. But more importantly, economics. Again, racism is also economics based. It has nothing to do with just getting along with people being happy. But on the other side, blacks don't have to have every black to participate with them. Get as many as you need, as you can get your hands on. That's why they're practicing group economics. And because economic power, economic prosperity flows from the group. Doesn't make any difference how well one black does or what in terms of acquiring wealth and money. It's not what one individual has it on, it's what the group owns and controls. See, what makes Jews very powerful in this country and around the world is not what one Jew owns or what one Jew controls, is what they own and control as a group. Black folk have to understand that they must control as much as possible as a group if they're going to play in the game. Now, as you question, there are a lot of blacks who want to play in a race-based, team-based sport as an individual. But if you don't play as a team, you're going to lose by default. That's like my going out on a football team and facing another team that's got 11 members on the team, and I'm up there by myself trying to play against them on a football field, one man against a whole team. You'll never win. You're going to lose. And black folk must understand those two things. What racism is a team sport, and racism is about acquiring economic wealth and power.
The second question comes from Paris Brantley. He asks, do you think it would be advantageous of us as black people to push our own immigration agendas like the Hispanics, only ours would push the immigration of Africans from all over the diaspora?
Well, most certainly, blacks should have been doing that for about the last 500 years. But to do that, they got to go back and address one thing that's critically important. That is this nation's immigration policies that were put in effect back in 1790. The first thing that Congress did when it came into existence, 1 year after they approved the United States Constitution, they set up a ranking order of acceptability called a National Immigration and Nationalization Policy that defined how people are going to immigrate and migrate into this country. Europeans had a wide open gate. They can come in as Europeans, white Europeans, in any quantity and number anytime they wanted to, in and out. Then, but the immigration color coding went starting with white, yellow, brown, black, from the highest to the lowest. The whiter you were at the top, open door integration. As you went down, it began to close up. You got down to the bottom, which was blacks on the bottom. It was totally closed. You could not come into here in this country as a black person unless you came in as a slave. That's why that immigration policy stayed in effect up until about 1965. They're still using it, but they are tricking and bamboozling blacks right now in the present immigration policy.
I hope you guys understand that what you are dealing with today in 2025 was designed in the 1600s, 1300s, 1200s. This guy is referencing a law that was passed in 1790, which decides today who gets prioritized into the immigration of America. A law that was passed in 1790 guides America on who to accept and who to deport. So you should not be shocked why Afrikaners are going to America. So when you say then, no, these are American things, they don't concern me. No, they do concern you, actually. Because right now there's 30% tariffs on South Africa. They are now planning more bills. They're proposing more bills to sanction us even further. So when you think these things don't influence you, they will. By this time next year, you will feel the heat because everything is going to be astronomically expensive. Clothing is going to be expensive. Food is going to be expensive. Cars are going to be expensive and unaffordable. People are going to start leaving the country. So to act like American things don't affect you, European things don't affect you, when you still have millions of white people and billions of dollars from their companies in your country, those things absolutely affect you. They absolutely affect you, whether you like it or not. It's not within your control. You only speak as if it doesn't affect you because you don't understand how economics work. Thank you, my people. I'm out. We'll continue tomorrow. Thanks. Thank you.